Okay, so year 10, yesterday you will have looked at simplifying surds. Today what we're going to do is some work on multiplying and dividing with surds. So, the rule of surds, the rule for multiplying surds is this. If you have got root A times root B, that becomes root AB. And we know in algebra when we've got AB together, that just means A times B. So for example, if I had root 6 times root 7, I would get root 42. If I had root 3 times root 5, I would get root 15. So far, so straightforward. Imagine though, I had root 8 times root 6. So we do the same as before, we get root 48. Now this is a surd that can be simplified. So now we need to think about how we simplified surds from last time. So remember, to simplify surds, we are looking for factors that are squared numbers. So I'm going to write out my list of squared numbers to help. So 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, etc. So now we look for a factor of 48 that's also a squared number. Remember, we're trying to get the biggest factor possible. So I know that 16 is a factor of 48. So because of that, root 48 splits into root 16 times root 3. And after that, we just think, well, what is the square root of 16? The square root of 16 is 4. And so my final simplified answer here is 4 root 3. Okay, that's how multiplying surds work. We'll do a couple more complicated ones and then we'll look at dividing. So, it gets a little bit more difficult when you have things that look like this. If we have 2 root 5 times 3 root 6. So 2 root 5 times 3 root 6. Now all that's happening here is like the number parts get multiplied together and the surd parts get multiplied together. And so what you get, 2 times 3 is 6. Root 5 times root 6 is root 30. And so our answer here is 6 root 30. A second one like that. If we had 7 root 8 times 2 root 5, like that, well, 7 times 2 is 14. Root 8 times root 5 is root 40. Now, root 40 can be simplified because 40 has got a factor which is a squared number. See if you can spot which of these is a factor of 40. There would be 4. So then this here, this 14 stays as it is, but the root 40 splits into root 4 times root 10. Then after that, root 4 is the number 2. And so then my final answer here, well, 14 times 2 is 28. And so we get 28 root 10. Now we'll just do one more example of multiplying and then we'll move on to dividing. So our final one for multiplying is this. Let's do 6 root 12 times root 3. Now a couple of things happen. What you just need to remember here is this root 3 means 1 root 3. In maths there are hidden ones everywhere and there is a hidden 1 in front of this root 3. So now we've spotted that, all we need to do is, well, 6 times 1 is 6. Root 12 times root 3 is root 36. And now actually something really special happens here. Root 36 is not a surd, it's just a square root. So what is the square root of 36? Well, the square root of 36 is 6. And so we're left here with 6 times 6, which is 36. So my final answer is 36. And that is the basics of multiplying surds. Okay, so now we've looked at multiplying surds, we'll look at dividing surds. And luckily, this is super straightforward. If multiplying was fine, this is the same, just the opposite. So with dividing surds, we have this rule that root A divided by root B equals root A, divided by B. And that is the same rule as when they're written as a fraction. So if we have root A over root B, that means root A over B, because we remember when we've got like a fraction, it's basically a division calculation. So for example then, let's start off nice and straightforward. If I had root 10 divided by root 5, we would get root 2. Similarly, if I had, let's say, root 40 over root 8, like that, root 40 over root 8 is 40 divided by 8 is 5, so we're left with root 5. It gets a little bit more complicated when there's like when there's numbers in front of the surds. So if we had something like, say, 12 root 12 divided by 2 root 6. So all we are doing here is we divide the number parts and we divide the surdy parts. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Root 12 divided by root 6 is root 2. And so my final answer here is 6 root 2. Let's just try one more. Let us try 20 root, let's think, 20 root 50 divided by 4 root 10. So 20 root 50 over 4 root 10. Well, 20 divided by 4 is 5. Root 50 divided by root 10. Root 50 divided by root 10 would be root 5. And so we get 5 root 5. We'll just do one final type of how we would divide surds. So my final type is going to be this. Let's say okay, so here we've got 3 root 36 divided by 6 root 3. Now, it's a tiny bit hard. And one of the reasons it's a tiny bit harder is 3 divided by 6 is 0.5. I'm going to keep this as a fraction for now. So 3 over 6, if you just look at 3 over 6, that simplifies down to 1/2. That's all we're doing, is we're simplifying. And then root 36 divided by root 3 is root 12. So now I've got half root 12. Now root 12 can be simplified, can't it? Because there is a factor of 12 that is also a squared number. So think about your factors of 12, which are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Well, 4 is a squared number, so this root 12 splits into half root 4, root 3, because 4 times 3 is 12, and root 4 is a squared number. So then, well, what is the square root of 4? The square root of 4 is 2. So we've got half times 2, or half of 2, root 3. And then this half times 2 simply means half of 2. What is half of 2? That's 1. So we get 1 root 3. And if you remember what I said a couple of minutes ago, we hidden ones everywhere. We're not going to write this 1 in our final answer, which would be slightly weird too. So to write my final answer here, it's simply root 3. And that is it for today.